Hi everyone, today I'm going to be doing my little reaction video to the winners of the Hugo Awards this year. Last week I posted up videos that were my wrap-ups for the finalists for the Hugo for Best Series and the Hugo Award for Best Novel, and I did my own rankings of how much I personally enjoyed the 6 finalists in each category. So today I'm going to look at who actually won, which got announced a couple of days ago, and just talk about how what I preferred lines up with that, and we'll compare them. As a disclaimer, I want to mention that this video is based on only my reaction to the actual winners of the awards and to the rankings and the votes, and doesn't really have anything to do with the Hugo Awards ceremony, which is a whole other story. First, I'll talk about the winner for Best Series, and then I will go to Best Novel after that. Okay, I'm gonna see if I can remember my rankings for how I ranked the Best Series finalists, starting from number 6 and going to number 1, and if I can't remember, then there will be lots of cuts in this section. So number 6, I had the Luna series by Ian MacDonald, which I DNF'd. I couldn't really get through the first book. You can see my wrap up on the Best Series finalists if you want to hear a little more about that, but basically it just wasn't for me. Number 5 was the Wormwood trilogy by Tade Thompson. In number 4, I had the Planetfall series by Emma Newman. Number 3 was The Expanse by James S.A. Corey. Number 2, I put as Encrypted by Shannon McGuire, and then in number 1, I put the Winter Night trilogy, which is a little unfair because that's the only series I read completely before I even started this project, but it was a series that I really enjoyed. Let me just take a moment to celebrate the fact that I got through all 6 of those series in one take. So this is not really a surprise, but the series that won this year was The Expanse. I know that this is a really popular series, and I think the last book is coming out pretty soon, so it doesn't really surprise me that this one won. Apparently Encrypted was actually a very close second place, and that was also the series that I had in second place, so I guess in that regard my taste did line up with the voters. I shouldn't be too surprised that the Winter Night trilogy did not win this award because honestly I think it's a very particular kind of book, and I don't think it's a kind of book that is as popular as a series like The Expanse, which I think is very readable and fast-paced and sort of an action political sci-fi. I think that just has probably a lot wider of a readership. It's also been around for a really long time, and it was even a finalist for this award a few years ago, I think. So I feel like this was probably its turn to win, and I know that it's a very popular series. I do have a review of Leviathan Wakes, which is the first book in The Expanse, coming up a little later this week. I did not manage to film that review before all of the final voting happened and all of that stuff, so I'll get to it in a little bit. I did enjoy it, it just wasn't absolutely my favorite kind of story, and I think I wasn't quite in the mood for it, so I ended up having that one at number 3. So I will just now quickly go through where all the other series ranked in the final voting. So like I mentioned, The Expanse was number 1, Encrypted was a close second, and after that, the Planetfall series was number 3. Then we had the Winter Night trilogy in 4th place, we had the Wormwood trilogy in 5th place, and Luna was in 6th place. So interestingly, my number 5 and number 6 were identical to how the final votes went. I also noticed that my top 3 and bottom 3 were pretty close to how it worked out in the final votes, although I had Winter Night as number 1 and that was number 4, so obviously that was swapped. So I don't know if that means my taste is kind of generic or what, but that's how it came out, and I was just kind of curious to compare what my personal taste was against how people were voting. Now, I don't really care that much because my personal taste is my personal taste and the taste of the people voting is their taste, but it's just kind of a fun comparison game to me. I guess I actually got 2 the same as the final votes as well, so in the end I had number 2, number 5, and number 6 lining up with the votes. So that's pretty much it for Best Series. I think I already mentioned this wasn't my favorite category to read my way through anyway. I think I enjoyed a lot more of the finalists for Best Novel. So let's review the finalists for Best Novel and how I ranked them. In number 6, I had The City in the Middle of the Night by Charlie Jane Anders. I think I already mentioned there's just something with her writing and my brain that just doesn't work, and I just ended up DNFing that one. In number 5, I had The 10,000 Doors of January by Alex E. Harrow. In number 4, I need to check. I had The Light Brigade by Cameron Hurley. Number 3 was Middle Game by Seanan McGuire. In number 2, I had A Memory Called Empire. And then in number 1, oh, I didn't say the author for that. In number 2, I had A Memory Called Empire by Arkady Martine. And then in number 1, I had Gideon the Ninth by Tamsin Muir. So, the novel that won was A Memory Called Empire, which I think was very, very justified. I know I said I wasn't going to impose my personal opinions on how things turned out, but honestly, the only reason I ranked A Memory Called Empire number 2 instead of number 1 was because I just enjoyed Gideon the Ninth so much. I actually genuinely think that A Memory Called Empire is probably a better written book and just a stronger work, but Gideon the Ninth was just so much fun and I loved it so much and I just connected to it in a way I didn't connect to A Memory Called Empire, so that's why I ranked them the way that I did. But I think A Memory Called Empire was a really stunning piece of writing and I think it totally deserves to win any award that's out there. So the rest of the ranking for how the Hugo voting turned out was in number 2, we had Middle Game by Seanan McGuire, and that actually apparently was also a pretty close second to A Memory Called Empire. So that means that Seanan McGuire was a close second on both categories that she got nominated in, which is probably kind of a little, not so fun for her, but I think she's been nominated and has won Hugos before, and she has a lot of really popular books out there, so I'm sure she'll get another chance again, but still, I feel kind of bad for her because that's probably really frustrating. A little while ago, I had this spell of time where I lost by 1 point at every single game I played, and that lasted for like 2 or 3 weeks, so that was just really not fun. So I feel like that's probably kind of how Seanan McGuire feels right now, but probably more frustrating than that because the Hugo Awards are a bigger deal. Gideon the Ninth was in number 3, and then The Light Brigade was number 4. City in the Middle of the Night was number 5, and The 10,000 Doors of January was in last place at number 6. So I actually had the top 3 and the bottom 3 sort of in the right halves, but my order I think was completely different. The only book that I matched in my ranking to what the voters did was having The Light Brigade at number 4. I actually think it's kind of interesting that A Memory Called Empire won, even though I think it's a really good book, because I feel like there are several other books on this list that I saw a lot more people talk about on BookTube, but I also feel like maybe the Hugo voter audience might not be aligned exactly to people that are making videos on YouTube, so you never really know. Another really interesting thing I learned from looking at the final statistics is that The Raven Tower by Anne Leckie, which is a book that I just read and reviewed, actually had enough nominations to be a finalist this year for the Best Novel Award, but that she declined the nomination, which is something that does happen sometimes. So I thought that was really interesting because I thought it was a really strong and interesting book. Although you can watch my review, I had to read it twice in order to like it, which is a little bit weird, but I still, came out of that feeling good about the book. So I'm not sure exactly why she declined the nomination. She has won a Hugo Award before. She won one for her first book, which is Ancillary Justice. So anyway, so Raven Tower was not on the ballot this year, but I thought it was kind of interesting that I happened to have just read and reviewed that book. So that's basically it for my Hugo Awards reading project that I've been doing for the past few months. I actually still have to film my review for Leviathan Wakes, and maybe I will end up doing some sort of review or video for the Winter Night trilogy because I am listening to the first one on audiobook right now, and I feel a little bad that I neglected it in my reviews just because I had read it before and before I even started the channel, so I'll see. I might get to that at some point. But before I finish up this video, I just want to mention 2 other works that won Hugos this year. They weren't in categories that I read or watched, but I just happen to be familiar with these works, and I think it's great that they won, so this is just like a shout out. R.F. Kuang, who wrote The Poppy War and The Dragon Republic, which are really great books. She won the Astounding Award for Best New Writer, which is, I guess it's not technically a Hugo, but it's given out along with the Hugo Awards. So I think that's really awesome. I think she's definitely a really strong new writer, and of course there's been a lot of attention to that series so far. And then also just on, well, not a personal note, but I was just happy to see that Good Omens, the TV series, won the Best Long-Form Dramatic Presentation, which usually goes to a movie or an entire TV series, because I really love the book Good Omens, and I really enjoyed the show a ton. So that has nothing to do with my Hugo Awards reading project, really, since it's a TV show, but if you haven't seen Good Omens, I really recommend that you go watch it. It is super fun. So thanks for watching. That really is basically almost it for my Hugo Awards reading project. I hope that some of you have enjoyed following along with this, and we'll see if I end up doing it again next year.